It's memory leak.
Man, why you gotta make it fucking? I'm gonna
there's
need
two
to
L's
listen
in
to
there.
the.
There's two. I said ML leak. Memory leak.
Yeah,
leak.
there's two. Yeah, memory leak.
Welcome back to memory leak.
I do want to listen to that
Why?
after we record it. I just want to see what it sounded like. I want to see if it
Okay.
sounded the way you think it did or the way I think it does.
Are you gonna put it as your Twitch stream opening clip?
No. 'Cause
Why not?
My brain is not. My brain has holes in it, but not that kind of hole.
Oh, fair enough. Welcome back to memory leak. We're talking about games.
You're being so weird today. Just being normal. No, okay.
What is normal?
Nah, fuck it. All right. Welcome back to Memory Leak. We've established that. We talk about video games, sometimes we don't. Last week, we kind of didn't for a little bit. And do you remember what we were talking about last week that caused us to go off on that tangent?
Oh, I remember.
What was it?
We was talking about Yuzu.
Yes. Okay. What's your name?
Mewtwo.
What's your name?
Benjamin. Citra to Benjamin.
And
You should see his face.
And my
It looks
name
like
is-
he's pinching out a real tough one.
my name is Geron, U2 Geron. So, U2 as in, the musicians. Letter U, number 2.
Not like Mewtwo?
Not like Mewtwo. It's like,
or Yuzu?
not like YU to you, like I spelled in the group chat earlier. All right, bitch. What
Part
happened?
2. A lot happened in the past
part 2.
week.
What happened?
First off, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out like in the span of the last recording session.
Is it good?
It's pretty fucking good.
That's fucking right. I don't have a PS5 to play it on, so
How did you play the demo?
I have other friends.
Oh, I thought maybe at shop.
At
You
sh-
might-
Oh
you
no
might
no
have
no no
played
no
it.
no! I didn't even consider that I could have. Well, I was really busy last week. I didn't
Yeah.
have time to just install that demo. That kind of just.
It's pretty good though. I think
Yeah.
there's an interesting dichotomy of people that are playing the game.
Yeah.
I think
Like.
division.
Yeah. Like what?
So
what
there's
is
two.
that?
I think there's two people of the people that like the game. There's sort of two mentalities.
Mhm.
One are the people that liked Remake more, and one are the people that like Rebirth more. And I'm
Interesting.
talking more just about the gameplay.
Yeah.
Remake being the first part of Midgar, which is only a few hours of the original
Right.
game.
Yeah. It's like. it's
Remake
like 5
is
hours.
almost like an entirely on rails experience.
Yeah.
There's like parts that you have side quests. There's a little bit of free roam,
Yeah.
but it's corridors, right?
Right.
It's a very beautiful set of corridors, but a lot of people liked the simplicity and linearity of that,
That's real. Yeah. Which is why,
which is totally fair.
Yeah. Which is probably why people kind of came back around to Final Fantasy 13 relatively recently.
Yeah. Also, just the cyclical nature of Final Fantasy, Zelda,
Final
any
Fantasy,
long-running
Zelda, anything,
franchise. But anyway, so I think everybody, not everybody, but Final Fantasy VII Remake
Mhm.
generally very positive appeal.
Yeah.
With Rebirth, they kind of tried to do or recapture the feelings of in the original game when you leave Midgar and
leave-
you're like, oh shit,
Yeah. You hit the.
that's
world
not
map.
just like the whole game. Because as a child, we gotta bring memory leaks. The concept of leaking memories back into it.
Yeah.
As a child,
Yeah.
you're playing through Midgar from the frame of reference of all the other Final Fantasy games, and you're like, oh, this is crazy scale. I'm in this big ass city. I guess this is the whole game is in this city.
And
Maybe.
that was the first game with like the
oh, we're in
pre-rendered
Sector
3D shit
7
too,
and we've
so-
seen Sector 5. Maybe we'll see the other six sectors in there over the course of this 3-disc game.
Yeah.
And then like they throw you out and then it's like, oh, there actually is a whole ass world map. Oh, Midgar is tiny on this world
Yeah,
map.
Midgar is just a teeny part of it, and
It's just a blip.
the game has a Final Fantasy 6 style, or Final Fantasy 4, whatever style world map that
Yeah.
that even like the map and you navigate it basically the same way as you navigated it in the Super Nintendo games, but it's still
Yeah.
bigger than that entire maybe 5 hours or so you play in Midgar, which felt like different, like city biomes, if you know what I mean.
Right.
The city,
There's
the slums,
the variety in
Yeah.
Midgar alone is significant.
yeah.
Again, just for 5 hours, the amount of different types of shit they throw at you is pretty impressive
Right.
for a game that was almost launched PS1, at least within shooting distance of launch dates.
That game came out 3 years after the PS1 came out.
When did the PS1 come out? 1994? Did it really? Not here, though.
Not here. It came out in 95. Maybe it did come out in 94 here. Either way, it was 94, early 95.
I don't... There's no way that came out in 94.
Look it up. Look it up. I'll look it up.
I bet it probably came out holiday 94 in Japan, and then, spring of 95 would be my best guess. Let's confirm this, though. But, okay.
Okay. It was December 1994 in Japan, and then came out September 95 here.
That makes more sense. Okay. So maybe not quite as shooting distance as I originally thought. It was 97, right? The original episode?
Yeah, and Final Fantasy 7 came out in 97.
In my mind, it's just like the leaps between 7 to 8 graphically, and then even 8 to 9, and the fact that those all came out almost like a year apart, is wild.
I think Final Fantasy 7 was a very there was a lot of uncertainty, especially because it originally started development as an N64 game too.
Right, that's right. Yeah, they have you can go look up on YouTube some of the prototype demos.
Yeah, which is just Final Fantasy 6 characters.
Yeah, they have Final Fantasy 6 characters, but with the battle engine of Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah. I don't even think it had a battle engine. I think it just had animations to show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining when you get into a battle in Final Fantasy 7, it's completely different. It's more modeled characters acting out the details with the camera moving, automatically in different, semi-random ways, or predefined, but it's random, selection of character movements.
Yeah. 7 would have been a completely different fucking game if it came out on the N64. Completely different fucking game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once they got the confidence with the hardware and they knew what they were doing with the CD and the CD format and on the PlayStation, fucking Final Fantasy 8 was the character models were a bit more detailed, the backgrounds were a little bit more detailed, everything felt a little bit closer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because all the characters didn't feel like dolls.
Right.
Baby dolls running around.
So they could have more dramatic zoom-ins.
Yeah, more dramatic zoom-ins, some more animations.
I mean, they still did that with 7. There's definitely still
it's there, but it's not.
It doesn't hit the same. Yeah, it doesn't hit the same.
The fucking even the pre-rendered cutscenes in 8 use more realistic everything.
It's true.
Than Final Fantasy 7 does. 7 does the cool thing where it'll go from gameplay with the models and everything and kind of work that into the way the cutscenes
and you
work.
can still move around.
Sometimes you can still move around. Sometimes it's they'll overlay the models on it until they cut to another angle where they're using just the full pre-rendered. But yeah, 7's a really cool fucking game. The technicality, technical jumps between 8 and 9.
Achievement.
Yeah, 9 is also a huge jump. 9 looks really fucking good, especially if you play one of the HD versions and see what those models actually look like. You're like, yo, wait, what the fuck?
It's also very cool. I know it's probably more of a higher fans, and I feel like we've done it in the past, but they have the Maguri mod for Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah.
Which the nice thing about that mod is you can basically turn off anything that you don't want and just have the AI upscaled backgrounds, which is the main reason most people go into it.
Yeah. Those give you widescreen too, right? Yeah.
16 by 9.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Yeah. Speaking of mods, speaking of emulation.
But hang on, let me finish my thoughts on Final Fantasy 7.
Okay.
So I'm only on chapter 4 of Rebirth.
Good, yeah.
But it's very clear, and they also say this in interviews, that Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, they wanted to recapture that immediate sort of wow factor of leaving Midgar. The sky is dark on the world map until you start walking away from it, and the sky lightens up. There's more people around, there's more nature, there's more, vibrant colors, there's more of the shit that you're used to, there's chocobos.
Yeah.
There's it's just, there's more to the game. It's look at this big, vast world that we have. The thing about OG7 is it's more of an illusion than it is a big open world by reality. Mm-hmm. The game's still very linear. From a gameplay design perspective, they very much hold you hand and push you to one place at a time.
Yeah.
There's very little choice in terms of where you can go. And there's very little in the way of optional content for a long period of the game.
For a long period of the game, yeah. Pretty much the optional content is pretty significant when you get to it.
It is.
There's 2 characters.
That's true. Actually, I didn't even consider that as like optional like content. I think of content as like stuff you play through rather than options you have at your disposal.
Yeah, but I like, you have to do a little bit of playing to get.
But to be like Yuffie and Vincent are both completely optional in the original game.
Yeah.
Yuffie you find through a random battle.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is funny. Mm-hmm. And then as part of Yuffie's backstory, you can also do the Wu-Tai segment on the first disc. Which is covered by Rebirth. I believe they said the entirety of the first disc is covered by the scope of Rebirth.
Okay.
Again, can't really validate that. I'm at the area just outside of Junon.
Yeah, I was going to say the
which is where the second demo.
The second demo is Junon. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the part that I'm on now. So Yuffie is optional. Wu-Tai in its entirety is optional, but I think that's also covered by Rebirth, which again makes sense. One thing I didn't know,
be a waste for it not to.
Replaying the original 7, and I was kind of like dumbfounded by, is the fact that Yuffie, you can actually get her before the events of Junon in the original FF7. There's one patch of forest that you can find her in.
She'll show up. Yeah.
I had never done that before, but it's like wild to think that in a game like 7, they basically had to script placeholders or script, not necessarily around, but at least provide the possibility of characters that you wouldn't have yet with like voice lines and like models, like the part where you're on the Shinra boat. Game. Yeah, in the original game.
No voice lines in the original game.
You mean dialogue?
Okay.
Dialogue.
Yeah. I'm about to say, well, saying
the character's voice. The character's
is different
voice
than dialogue, because dialogue is much easier to
script around
insert than.
Yeah, but I was more thinking like, so there's a part in the original game where you sneak onto the ship and they're all wearing Shinra uniforms, like. They have part of that with Yuffie too.
With Yuffie, yeah.
Where she's like sick and she doesn't want to like do shit. And like, I completely have never engaged with those like world building, character building segments. They're slight and minor because obviously they're completely optional, but it's just funny. It's funny how much like flexibility the original game had for like the choices and things that you do.
Yeah.
Fort Condor is another huge segment of optional content. Mm-hmm. An entire mini game that they scripted, little mini tactics game.
Yeah, that
mini strategy, real-time strategy game.
Do you have to play that?
Not in the original.
Oh, I thought
you definitely don't have to play it. I think you
learned to play it.
You might have to play it in disc 2. You don't have to play it in disc 1 though.
Okay, yeah.
I think there's a part when stuff happens and you're controlling Sid.
Yeah.
That I think you do actually have to play it.
Yeah, I've definitely played it, and I was like, I don't think this was optional. I think I had to do this.
Yeah, but that's later in the game.
Yeah,
it's optional for a long period of time, and depending on when you do it, because you can do it pretty much at any point in the game, and depending on what sort of like milestones have been checked in the main game, change the rewards.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they can give you like permanent setups and like gear and shit like that. Nothing that important.
Yeah. Because anytime I play 7, I kind of just like
go through it.
Play 7. I like, let's just do it.
And that's pretty much what I did too. I was just kind of paying attention, keeping my eyes open, looking for stuff that might transfer over to Rebirth.
Yeah.
Gold Saucer.
Yeah, Gold Saucer. Yeah.
Everyone. And that's pretty much it. Is like Gold Saucer minigames, Fort Condor, Yuffie and Vincent, Wu-Tai. Wu-Tai is probably the biggest because it's a whole city, a whole storyline, a whole segment, boss fights.
There's like the weapons and shit too.
They're not just one though.
Okay, you're right. They're not in this one. I understand.
What is optional? Right. Okay. Going back to my original point.
Yeah.
Disc 1 is still very linear.
This one is
Wu-Tai is the one major like true side quest, so to speak.
Yeah.
But other than that, very linear.
In fact, I think like the other discs are basically just quest packs for the
they really
map
are.
That you've already
the whole game opens up. It's just like you got to deal with like the fallout of things that happen and put characters back together.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So disc 1, still a very linear experience, but just again, they give you the illusion of a huge open world. Like, it's the first time on PS1 that you've seen anything of this scope and scale in a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
But again, more or less an illusion, which frankly is what makes good gameplay design. Give people what they think they want, but not showing them exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's a trick.
Yeah, it's a trick.
It's
all good games are basically tricks.
They trick you into getting what you want out of it without actually having to give you exactly what that is. Because if they did give you exactly what that was, then you probably would be like, "Well, I didn't really want this in the first place."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the job of a game designer, in fact, is to protect the player from themselves. That's one of their roles as a game designer. That's what like if you play a tabletop RPG or something like that, that's what a game master or a dungeon master is meant to do. It's meant to they're meant to keep things fun and interesting without letting the players hang themselves, basically.
Yeah.
So unless that's the goal, in which case let them lose.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with Rebirth, and then we can move on.
Yeah. Go for it.
From what I've experienced so far, Rebirth is largely succeeding in recapturing the same types of things in the similar types of ways. So, first major set piece that they launched the game with, the Nibelheim incident.
Yeah.
Kind of almost like not a challenge for them to remake. Like they can do cool stuff. It's still a very scripted, very linear event. Can't really diverge too much from it, knowing how core and pivotal it is to like the entire franchise. Like screw the game. All of the events, like the Nibelheim incident is like pivotal to every piece
Final
of
Fantasy
media.
7
yeah, exactly.
Thing, yeah.
Advent Children, Crisis Core, Before Crisis, like it's all tied to the Nibelheim incident.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the way they did it was sick. It was good. It's in the demo. You can play the entire thing and it's in its unadulterated form.
Yeah.
As part of the demo, and it transfers over.
And it lets you keep that progression.
Yeah, you can opt to skip that chapter of the game
when you play the game.
So then you get into the game, and it's still very linear. It's still very linear, but what they do is they go kind of like a Xenoblade route, where they have large-ish individual maps that are connected.
Yeah, there's giant zones.
With like open world-ish things you can do, like your standard like map tower thing that gives you more information on like other things around it. They've got little mini game type things like with button prompts that unlock more information and lore about the area, which they've built on significantly. Just like the whole lore, the history of the region, like, Shinra's backstory, Junon's backstory, how these areas interact. Shinra being an occupying force in Junon, which like you never really think about too much, because they don't really have the time or space to talk about it.
They don't have the fucking the facilities on the PS1 to do that shit.
Exactly.
So I'm sure that may have even come up, but it probably was one of the things that got cut because like this fucking game is on 4 discs,
right,
or 3 discs.
So yeah, I mean, they just basically go deeper. The detail, I will say, is like overwhelming, both in good and potentially time-consuming or negative ways.
I mean, that's kind of, in certain ways, that's kind of how Remake was.
That's true.
It's just because it did so with a smaller part of the game.
Right.
Because like Midgard, when I was playing Remake, I played some of Remake, not on my own machine, but I was like, they're really ringing this particular bit out.
Yeah.
Let's get it moving. But yeah, I did like playing darts.
I think there's, you liked what?
I did like playing darts though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, this is fun.
That flavor is infused in a lot of Rebirth. Sort of like that type of flavor, and less of like, oh, this one map in Final Fantasy VII is now an entire chapter in Remake.
Yeah. Okay.
There's less of that I've noticed so far.
Okay.
Like the pacing of areas is much better. And I think it's because it's to the benefit of them doing the kind of open zone thing. They could put all the like quote padding or like filling into like the map build out. Okay. Which is like, you can engage with it if you want. Yeah. Right? Or you can blaze through the game.
The golden path.
Exactly.
Kind of exactly. Which I appreciate. Every time I saw Rebirth, I was like, I hope this is actually quite a bit different from 7.
Yeah.
And like, you get the seven things in the world, but they can fill it with anything.
And that's exactly what it is.
I'd like them to do that.
Yeah, and it's nice. I've seen some complaints about like, oh, it's got open world. It's got the open world shit that everybody's tired of. It's got the Ubisoft open world, and it's like, it doesn't really though, because for one thing, it's not true open world. It's not one giant map,
right?
Which again, I think is to its benefit because they can design each map individually,
and you can. And honestly, zones are less overwhelming to try to comb over. It's like you can decide, okay, I'm done with this spot. I can move through the little path, and again, that's opening or whatever.
That's almost kind of what reminds me of like the Monolith Soft type of approach, because even within the big maps, they break it up. Yeah, there's like clear things that like the areas are centered around. There's potentially a side quest there.
Yeah.
Like everything has its like purpose. It's very intentionally placed.
Has its place,
So like if you find something that looks like it has importance or it has unique assets or something like that, you'll get a thing you can fast travel to for when you do unlock some kind of side quest that interacts with it. Like, it's all very intentionally connected, high quality of life. You never really have to retread ground. It's got the PS5 fucking fast travel load times.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
so nice. Always
having that snappy fucking SSD load time, that M.2 fucking load time is like, okay. It
rewards the good thing about open world games, which is see thing, go to thing, and then it rewards you. It's like, okay, you can fast travel here because you saw that this is a unique stand.
It's a landmark.
It's a landmark that stands out on the silhouette of the horizon. Yeah. So
it's funny because the faster load times make me think that worlds don't need to be can be segmented again.
Yeah, exactly.
But because they load so quick, like a player wouldn't even notice it.
That's pretty much what it is.
Walk through and.
Yeah, the only reason it's segmented is because they box sort of like progression around the zone itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So like you're looking at a map, you're only looking at that zone's map.
Yeah.
Which again, I think like they've done a good job of balancing what makes open world games fun versus tedious.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd buy into the complaints of the game like suffering from like open world isms per se.
Whenever I hear, typically when I hear people complain about open world things, the player is generally not interested in open world anything in the first place, like ever.
Yeah.
Either that or they're just tired of it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they've played so many before. It's not that they don't like it, it's that they're tired of it.
I think it's that. I think it's like journalistic fatigue.
Yeah.
Of the fact that the media they're reviewing is like demanding and time consuming.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you're sitting there and your purpose is to write about or talk about this thing and it's asking a lot from you, of course you're gonna be like, please just walk me through the park. Don't fucking make me find everything in the park myself,
Right.
Which, like, honestly, it's fine to be like, I don't like open world. I'm tired of open world. I get it. But at the same time, the nature of open world is also being able to just, as somebody that has worked on open world games, you can play them like linear games.
Yeah.
You have to have a little bit of discipline to be like, I see that thing over there and it's interesting, but I'm not going to go there, at least not yet.
Yeah.
That requires discipline, but you can really just go like Skyrim. You can beat that shit in an afternoon.
I've noticed again, like thinking about how they balance the game.
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot you get from doing the open world stuff
in
Rebirth.
Okay,
you do get like gear, I guess, but it's never that much better than gear you can just buy, or just get from bosses, or get from. So the other thing they have is like, they do still have chapters that are like Remake, where you just go through it like it's not a zone, right? It's just like almost a mini dungeon. Like Mithril Mines is the good example that connects the Midgar area to the Junon area. That's its own chapter with its own fleshed out area.
That's smart.
It is
smart of them to have done,
and it breaks it up, right? So you're not getting that open world fatigue if you're somebody that wants to engage with everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's very thoughtful. It's very well designed. It's got a lot of detail, a lot of focus put into the design elements, the visuals, the gameplay, the mechanics, the stuff that they've leveled up from Remake is nice. They've deepened the relationship system to also include gameplay, which is nice, and that like ties into your synergy abilities, which is a new thing. So it's like all kind of connected, and that's what feels good about it. It's like it doesn't feel at any point sort of like disjointed, or that anything was done in a silo in terms of how they were built or designed. It's all part of
everything is done at the service of everything else around.
Exactly. It's well directed. It's a very well directed game.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, only 4 chapters in. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I've been going at a relatively slow pace.
That's perfect.
It's great.
Keep it slow. Yeah.
It's great.
Are you playing it on
I'm playing on normal.
Huh?
I'm playing on normal.
I mean, are you mostly playing it on the PS5 or are you streaming it to your Steam Deck and playing it up here?
It's about 50-50. So that's where if it's like a linear segment,
you do it downstairs.
Yeah, if it's a linear segment, I'll do it on the TV, full 4K HDR,
full surround sound, everything.
Full surround sound. If I'm doing the open world stuff, I'll do it in bed.
Yeah. Okay. That's fucking. Oh man, the benefit of being able to use a portable to play a game for RPGs is I can't overstate it enough. It's some of these games are difficult, are overwhelming to have to sit in front of a TV and be like, I need like 5 hours. to play and enjoy what I'm about to play. And it's hard. The older I get, the harder it is to find that 5 hours and be ready to sit down and do it when I do have it. Otherwise, I might just go to sleep. But having it in a portable form factor is like, I might not have the 5 hours, but there's some side quests I want to do. I'm in a car ride. I'm on a plane. I'm just laying in bed. I'm at fucking the car dealership or some shit.
Exactly.
Just whip it out, play some, even streaming or if it's local, whatever. As long as you have a portable way to play it.
I'll like get out of a meeting early and I'll have 15 minutes and I'll go like take a dunk, turn on my Steam Deck, play like one open world thing.
Yeah.
Like go find Fountain and log it on my map. And it's also so satisfying too, because when each open world thing, like there's a finite set of them, it like puts its notch on like this multi-notch belt.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like 20 or 30 like nodes, and it's like the materia getting slotted in the equipment.
Yeah.
And it goes like, and it clicks in, and it's like a meter.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. I didn't know about that.
It's a little UI thing that honestly makes just like a pick up and play 10 minutes, like genuinely satisfying and feel like you've achieved a small but important thing.
And speaking of what you're saying, the being able to do something like that with your in-game UI and not have to force it with like fucking achievements or trophy pop-ups.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Like a lot of people I know this about me when they bring it up. Trophies and achievements and shit are fucking nothing. They're obligatory. There's no flavor to that shit. It's just stale fucking bread dipped in water. When they pop up, all they tell me is like, oh, I did some arbitrary thing that they needed to do here to get certification so they could put the game out on this fucking console.
Yep.
And it's not like, oh, Geron likes Nintendo shit, so he doesn't care about. No. I've never cared about fucking achievements. And then the one time I did care, which was Halo 3 ODST, me and 3 other friends set up our 360s around in one living room, and we played for like 4 hours, played Firefight for 4 hours straight to unlock an achievement. And we met the condition to get the achievement, but none of us popped the achievement. Why? Because you needed to be online. Not on, like, we set up a whole situation so we were on LAN and we all could get it, whatever. And then when it didn't pop, it was like, okay, well, fuck you too then.
Oh,
we did it. We don't care. We had fun. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We're better than this shit. Fuck achievements. And then we had
a growth opportunity.
Yeah. While we still had another friend who was living somewhere else at the time, whose life revolved around fucking Xbox Live achievements. And we were like, man, save your money. Don't keep buying these games just so you can get this dumbass number up. No one cares, dude. Oof. Please just enjoy the toys. Oof. But okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so enjoying it. I recommend it. Again, play it the way you would play any game, which is like basically suited to your personal preferences and play style. Yeah. Don't force it. It's not a game that needs to be forced.
Right. No game needs to be forced, I'm telling you. If you're forcing a game, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So, what's it called?
So, I guess we'll move on to...
When it comes out on PSA, I'll play.
Effectively, the continuation of Higher Fans.
Yeah. So, check it out. Last week, we talked about the Yuzu developers being sued by Nintendo for existing.
Basically.
Yeah. Essentially, it was they were using an emulator. They had created and they had been supporting an emulator an emulator that played Nintendo Switch games. And the Switch is still on the market. The Switch is still the current platform that Nintendo supports. The Switch is still sells very well, even if it's slowing. It's been slowing down recently. It's like kind of winding down its life. But so they sued the Yuzu developers, and those developers had hired a lawyer for this situation. And I was under the impression that they were going to stretch the whole thing a little bit longer. And they didn't.
Nope, they did not. Didn't. They fucked around, they found out, and they said, all right, deuces.
Yeah, they settled for $2.4 million, which sounds like a fucking lot. To Nintendo, it's not anything, but to these developers, considering they had a Patreon that made like 20, 30K a month, they clearly could afford to do so while winding down development of their emulator. And there's a lot of people that are kind of concerned about what that means for the emulation scene. But at the same time, you have the typical people like fuck Nintendo, whatever, I get it. And then the other set of people that believe that Yuzu actually really fucked up. It might have fucked up everything for everybody else, which is something I kind of talked about last week. Yeah, that's the story of it. And my and like, how do I feel? How do we feel about the whole thing? Like, what's it called? We've talked about emulation before. Where am I going with this? We talked about emulation before, and the whole argument ended up being that the way they were handling it was facilitating piracy.
Yeah, it gets kind of great. I mean, I think the concerns are fairly valid.
Yeah,
because it is kind of a first. Because we've always been sort of led to believe by the lack of lawsuits, or the lack of successful lawsuits rather.
Yeah,
that essentially building an emulator that emulates software,
right?
Not illegal.
Yeah.
The development of software that emulates software.
Yeah. Well,
of a platform.
The software that emulates hardware.
Sorry,
run software.
Software that emulates hardware running software is not illegal.
And that's a common thing in the tech industry. Like you have things that emulate other hardware for the purpose of sometimes for the purpose of development, sometimes for the purpose of convenience. And those are generally not considered problematic. When it comes to video games, I think a lot of publishers, I know Nintendo argued this with their particular, like in the particular document, that because video games are not just software, they're like hardware. They're not hardware. They're like, it's music and other kind of things like that. Did Nintendo argue this, or did someone else? Either way, the argument was that a video game is more than just software. Mm-hmm. It's software that powers the entertainment around it. So it's as if everything around it is being, once piracy is facilitated, those things are being stolen, or unauthorized copies are being made, or whatever. And what's it called? We're not fucking lawyers or anything.
There was a
was
a ruling that somebody called out Sony versus Bleem.
Yeah, the Bleem thing.
That even going so far as selling an emulator, commercially is fine. It's legal.
Yeah,
which is fascinating.
That case actually worked out that Bleem. So Bleem was making emulators that ran on your Dreamcast. So you buy their disc, and then you'd have the PlayStation 1 game, and you could put the disc into your Dreamcast, take the disc out, and then put in the game, like Metal Gear Solid, Gran Turismo. They had a couple other ones that they had written emulators for. And you could play it on the Dreamcast with better performance and sometimes and better performance sometimes and better resolution, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of thing. I don't know about how the controls worked because the controller's not the same. But obviously, Sony was not into that because they believed that the games that they made, the games that they published, were being made for their hardware, and you needed to have their hardware to play their games. But that particular situation, the company called Bleem actually won. They did not lose, but the problem was they could not afford
the lawsuit
to do to go through this entire case. So even though they won, they couldn't afford to keep the business running. So they just they gave it up, which is probably the result that Sony really wanted, not the
which I feel like this, what we're talking about right now, is actually like my biggest issue with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is just more the legal system itself.
Yeah.
Which really fucking is upsetting, because like this is a really interesting lawsuit that we were able to see a ruling on and understand interpretation.
The settlement on it wasn't. There wasn't a ruling because they didn't go to court.
There was no ruling?
They didn't go to court.
I thought. Hang on. I'm going to need to look up the source for this, but because I don't trust Wikipedia's sourcing.
Oh, fair.
But it says the judge had rejected the notion and issued a protective order to protect, quote, David from Goliath. Sony's second copyright allegation.
Oh, you're talking about, okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about the Yuzu thing. Okay.
No, yeah.
You're still talking about Blame. Okay.
I'm still talking about Blame.
I misunderstood. Okay.
There was a court ruling.
Yeah. That went all the way to court.
That went all the way to court.
That's why.
So like,
Blame.
And it's a very important court ruling.
Yeah. That one's important. Okay.
A very, like, this whole sort of community, this whole sort of like house of cards that emulation and to a degree piracy, but also to a degree preservation. To one degree or another. We've talked about the value of emulation for the sake of preservation specifically.
Yeah.
Discs will fail, cartridges will fail.
Yeah.
Back it up. You have to be able to play it to back it up. Yeah. Right?
You have to be able to play it, back it up. You have to be able to back it up to play it.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah. It's two sides of the same coin. But we actually got to see it go to the court ruling. Mm-hmm. So now we know the precedence. Yeah. Because we all know that the precedence is sort of the rule of law. As soon as somebody rules at something, generally speaking, that carries forward. That carries forward, yep. So the fact that there's the potential for so many lawsuits that nobody knows how they would rule, but could have very significant ramifications. Mm-hmm. Like we'll never see that simply because of the fact that Nintendo is a big company with lots of money.
Nintendo's a big company with way more money than they even show that they have.
Yeah. They could be running for what, 20 years or something?
I remember
20 years
it was like
with
$0
of
25
profit.
years with no profit. Yeah. Everyone brought that up during the Wii U days because that's kind of happening. But
kind of had to do it.
Yeah. But
but it's like it's a shame. Like Yuzu might have been in the right, for all we know.
Yeah. I see the with their operation, they could have been completely fine. I think they had some major fuck ups.
They did, which we talked about.
From my understanding, there was even somebody who was doing the work for Nintendo was in their Discord.
That's really funny. So somebody's just straight up not vetted,
just kind of in there, So they can't really hide anything. Yeah, and I think they knew that, which is probably why they settled for the 20.
They don't know how much dirt they have. Essentially, exactly. It's like shit. They might have all the deets.
Yeah. So the on one hand, like. Front facing Yuzu was like, we want to stamp out piracy, blah, blah, blah. But that was just the face of it. On the other hand, they had their own, just Google Drive full of Switch games that they all could download for development purposes, obviously, but it's still piracy. It's still making unauthorized copies, and they had instructions on how to do so for people that were doing the whole thing. On top of that, they would
which because they had a Nintendo person in their fucking
it's like there was something else that they kind of fucked up on. Something else they very specifically fucked up on, and I can't remember.
Some people mentioned that like there's a thread of misconceptions from the perspective of supporting Yuzu. Yeah. So I mentioned the one about selling the emulator, like the Patreon.
Yeah, the Patreon, yeah.
Somebody also mentions the fact that the builds let you play Tears of the Kingdom before release.
Yeah, but those were outside because Yuzu is open source.
Right.
So other people could do what they needed to do to make the game run.
Yep.
So that honestly
you covered the instructions to illegally dump games, or I guess not illegally dump them.
It's not illegally dumping. It's not illegally doing so, I guess, but at the same time, you are circumventing the encryption and publicly showing people how to do so, which is problematic when it comes to like DMCA stuff, which is relevant to America.
Isn't that also why Valve delisted Dolphin?
Valve delisted Dolphin, one, because of using copyrighted code from the GameCube and the Wii.
Yeah.
And they Valve asked Nintendo, like, are y'all cool with this? Fully knowing they wouldn't be. Like, why would they be?
Yeah.
So like that's one of the funny things is all these publishers, even Valve on PC, even if it was like none of them are like on your side. They're on each other's side because it benefits them to be in good graces.
They're on the side of copyright protection.
Like it's to their benefit. The Valve has DRM, like Steam has DRM. Steam lets other games use whatever DRM they want, and they let you know what DRM they're using, digital rights management. A lot of times people's argument is that for emulating Switch games especially, that they get better performance with it, which sometimes is, sometimes isn't true.
It all kind of depends on how beefy your rig is.
Yeah, exactly. And it usually comes down to, if this were on PC, you wouldn't have this problem. But I don't know about that. Games on PC still get pirated too. You just don't need an emulator to do it.
I mean, some of the de novo, haven't even been cracked yet.
Yeah, de novo.
There's some crazy DRM out there.
It's pretty powerful. And there's like one crazy person that was actually cracking it sometimes.
Who like isn't doing it anymore.
Yeah, they're just like, fuck this. This
like
is
actual crazy person.
Yeah. When I say crazy, like they had like personality disorders. To back up a little bit, it's like piracy and emulation aren't the same thing. And Yuzu's problem is that they were using piracy to facilitate the development of their emulation, though they were not outright doing the piracy for you. And I think that's part of the grayness of the whole situation. Because we've said it before, emulation is good. Emulation is fine. Emulation is used in through official channels and everything. It's common. Mind blanked. I don't know what point I was about to make, but you're about to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say one of the other things that was an unfortunate crossfire.
Oh yeah, casual
was Citra.
Yeah, Citra being a 3DS emulator,
especially with everything just sort of going offline, going dark. No way to get anything digitally anymore.
Yeah, like with the eShop he means. Yeah,
with the 3DS Wii U eShop.
Yeah.
And it's that, just to be clear, Citra wasn't targeted by Nintendo. It was the fact that some of the Yuzu devs were told not to work on anything Nintendo related, and a lot of them worked on Citra also.
Yeah, a lot of the Citra devs are the same people as the Yuzu
we're
devs.
just not going to touch this for risk of breaching our very, very close call here.
Yeah.
That cost us $2.4 million. So
yeah, it costs.
We're gonna, accidentally maybe leak it on archive.org and see if somebody takes up the mantle.
Yeah,
I'm sure there will be a 3DS emulator that comes back that uses Citra's source code that's existed.
Yeah,
so far.
it's open source. It's all open source. So somebody has it.
Yeah,
somebody's using it. The problem would be is if those emulators do use like Nintendo's copyrighted code within them. In which case, either that's got to be scrubbed out, or the emulator gets published, and then we just kind of do the whack-a-mole again. Well, I'm saying, like Nintendo does the whack-a-mole again of.
Yeah, I'm siding on the big.
No, that's not what's happening. But it's the other thing. It's like, I think it's foolish to believe that Yuzu was out there trying to protect its users, because they were doing big corporate bullshit too, like the telemetry thing. They would,
so funny, man.
Yeah, it's like they're not here to help you get free Switch games.
User stat tracking is so whack.
Yeah,
when it's on something that's primarily used for piracy. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. It is primarily used for piracy.
For all this stuff that we talk about, ripping your own games and shit like that, people who use emulators are not doing that in general.
They're not doing it for the Switch. And here's how we know.
Emulators,
Here's how we know. You have to have a Switch to dump your games.
Yeah, you have to have a Switch to dump your games. So you're not going to play them on a fucking
emulator.
Either you're not going to play them on an emulator, or the people that have it's not trivial to mod a Switch. So for a lot of people, they'll just be like, "Oh, I bought the game. I'm just going to download it from."
That's piracy.
That is piracy.
That counts as piracy.
Yeah, you're downloading an unauthorized copy from somewhere else that's being distributed. The distribution is the problem.
Yeah.
It's not the copy you have, it's not the copy they have, it's that they're giving it to you. That's where the problems come up. And go ahead.
And as much as people might say, "Oh, well, I wanted to go through the process of modding my Switch so that I could run it in 4K at 60 FPS."
Yeah.
And on my personal PC computer. The reality is, I have a hard time buying into that when the gains that you're getting, even with like a dual SLI 4090 overclocked whatever, is like maybe 5 to 10 frames better than what you're going to be getting natively on the Switch. That you can just play like portably. Like, the value proposition there doesn't make sense to me. There might be a couple stragglers out there that genuinely were following the rules and just trying to take the benefits of stronger hardware.
Yeah.
I would play Russian roulette with those odds, whatever the odds are that, you know, however many people were actually doing that versus not.
And not to speak for other people, but I do, whenever I hear of people using emulation to get better performance or add like visual mods and things like that, a lot of times most quote unquote normal people that do that actually play the game that way for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Like they do it just to see it.
They do it to see it, and they do it to make a video.
For the novelty of it.
They do it for the novelty of it, and then they there's a lot of like annoying when it comes to emulation. There's a lot of little annoying things that always come up.
Artifacting, sound crunching, shadows not popping, like
weird
Nintendo shit, especially because Nintendo shit is like so intentionally optimized for its hardware
for the hardware
always
they made
underpowered for the generation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like it's unrealistic to think like even Citra shit lags on like comparable if not better hardware for half the games until you get to like multiple generations further ahead. Then you start to run, you know, relatively flawless.
You start to
frames.
brute force it, and you like the shader compilation and everything. If it comes up, it takes seconds. Like people play Super Smash Brothers through an emulator, and that shit stutters. It's like you can't really play the game that way. Even then, the game runs at 60 frames per second on Switch anyway. So it's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah,
kind of thing. And you can use a modded Switch to put mods into the game anyway if you want to do it that way. But realistically, genuinely, unofficial emulation is usually used for piracy, which is what Nintendo's problem with it is, which I understand. But at the same time, a lot of the problem, like I mentioned last week, unofficial emulator developers kind of get ahead of themselves. They get full of themselves, start charging money.
It's so funny to me,
like you were saying, they start tracking fucking data of their users, which is fucking invasive for something like that. Like Project 64 does that shit now too.
This is how I know gamers don't like deserve this.
Yeah.
That was harsh and not what I meant.
Yeah.
The gaming community hits different compared to other piracy mediums.
Yeah.
Because all other forms of media have piracy so locked down on private trackers.
Yeah.
You could not fucking catch the hosts of sites like playing fucking games with that kind of responsibility. Like the people that run that shit, and I mentioned this last time, are so goddamn paranoid about like user data leaking, people getting in that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like these people would genuinely rather light their servers on fire and go to jail rather than see any kind of user data leak. Like
exactly.
They will fall on the sword for their users, which is wild. Like because people they don't know.
They rely on the users to distribute the shit anyway.
Yeah, to keep it alive, keep the community, like the scene.
It doesn't exist without those users that are even, you know, uploading and downloading the shit they've stolen. But maybe they haven't stolen it. Maybe they have a legitimate copy and they're uploading.
The distribution is still illegal. I would say most of the copies are probably legitimate, originally sourced.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of shit on there that it's like, how would anybody have gotten this?
Right. Yeah. Like this
is crazy.
It needed to come from the original place. And when it like that's usually in that particular regard, the argument for having these kind of things is preservation. And in a lot of ways, you know, it helps that. I think it really helps it with media that isn't video games, actually.
I agree.
Like movies and music and everything, because it just has to work.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to make a sound
It just
file
has to work, and it's way more traceable when something's not right.
Yeah. Not to mention it's easier to convert shit when you have it like, oh, convert this file to this, to this, to this.
Converting the format, wrappers, containers.
A video game, you kind of you're beholden to the hardware it was designed for, if it was designed for something. And if it wasn't, then, you know, that's how it goes. But like you were saying, they, a lot of arguments for game preservation are not very well put together.
Yeah, they're pretty illegitimate.
Yeah, it's misunderstanding that a lot of these, you know, it sounds like we're always shill for fucking Nintendo, but it's because it's just easy to talk about it.
Here's the thing. There are definitely some games that genuinely don't have a way to be preserved other than really like piracy, essentially.
Yeah.
They're few and far between. They do exist.
What I'm saying,
I will stand up for those for sure. Like we talked about, like the the F-Zero BS99 game.
Yeah,
like, that's cool shit.
That's cool. That was a recreation of it. So
it's even more legitimate.
Whatever. I wouldn't even call that piracy. That's fucking
a new creation.
Yeah, a derivative creation.
Yeah. But there's things like that where there's like almost lost media to a degree.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of these people argue this shit for like Nintendo shit. It's like, bro, there's shit that needs to be preserved. They got it.
Yeah.
They have their shit. Stop making this shit up. You just want their shit for free, or you want their shit on Steam, but it's not on Steam. I get that. Be honest about that. That shit is not about a preservation. That shit is about like,
I want thing on other thing.
Yeah. Like, I've heard people bring up, well, they've delisted Mario 3 All-Stars. Bitch, those games are, you can get Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy.
There's nothing new about the source code there.
People got those, dog. Don't chill on that. That's not a good argument. If you were to tell me fucking Two Crude Dudes or Crude Buster got delisted from Switch and it's really hard to get now, okay, there you go. I get it. And I only say that because I wanted to play the fucking game and I was like, oh, it was on Switch. Let me go buy a copy. Oh, wait a minute. I can't fucking do that because they delisted it at the end of 2023.
Or like to take it back again, thinking of preservation. I think of preservation, I think of old shit, which again is where like other media has like way more legitimacy to the claim.
Yeah, in that particular,
like we're talking like 40s, 50s Japanese movies that have never seen the West, like shit like that. That's preservation of media.
Yeah.
With games, I will accept if we're talking things like a Super Nintendo tournament-only prototype copy of a game that was never distributed beyond the single copy that went to the winner. Like some shit like that is cool by me, personally.
Right. That kind of thing, in the first place, it's like, it's something that you couldn't even purchase anyway.
Yeah.
Like in the first,
it was never for sale.
It's a thing that was meant to reward somebody in a very unique way for a very unique situation as a promotional thing, of course.
And again, I think time matters too. Like if it's 30 years old, okay, I get it. But it's also like if something like that happened today, it's like let the person have their thing that they won legitimately.
Yeah.
Before we start dumping it online and giving it in everybody's hands.
Before we, make it worthless. But even then, it's like that one person isn't running a business. Like these game publishers are running a business. So it's in their best interest to stamp this kind of shit out.
Yeah.
And, like they nowadays, with the preservation argument, now because of digital distribution, a lot of these publishers have these old games just kind of lined up and waiting to be sold again. And you have to decide for yourself, are we going to allow them to sell them to us? Or are we just going to download it for free? Because you ask for the thing, then by the time the thing's given to you, you either have spoiled yourself by just playing it for free anyway, or you complain in a lot of different ways to excuse yourself for just continuing to play it for free. And it's like, you asked for Mother 3, not you, but people ask for Mother 3. When it comes over here, will you pay the money to play it, or will you make an excuse to play it?
I think a lot of people will.
I think a lot of people would, but I think a lot of the people that are the minority.
Here's specifically why people would
say they wouldn't go.
It's the same reason why I don't think people are legitimately playing copies of Tears of the Kingdom. It's more of a hassle to find a copy of Mother 3, patch it with the fan translation, and then stick it on a device that's not a Game Boy Advance than it is to just buy the game for $10 or what, $30, whatever
price they end up
on like the hardware that they're actually like updating it and porting it to.
Yeah,
like that's what you're paying for, right? Like anybody that wants to play the fan translation of Mother 3 can and probably already has. So like they're probably also the same people that would buy Mother 3 when it came out, rather than the weirdos that are like, just trying to steal everything all the time.
Right. And it's, you're right. You're right on that particular thing. I think, we mention it all the time. I think it's like an Odyssey thing. Yuzu exists to allow people to emulate Nintendo Switch games. I think it's dishonest to say that their existence is necessary and their existence was for the sake of preservation, because no, it wasn't. Why? Like, it wasn't.
Ryujinx would have been slapped with the same lawsuit.
Yeah,
it's such small effort for them to copy paste their lawsuit and throw it at another developer, but they're not following the same. They didn't fall in the same trap.
You know why? One of the other reasons why they can't go after Ryujinx the same way is because the Yuzu situation, Nintendo came after them with U.S. law, but Ryujinx is developed mainly in Brazil.
Oh, interesting. That's different. That's different.
My understanding of Brazilians creating an emulator for a console like that actually makes a lot of sense, because their fucking prices are completely fucked up.
Yeah, their economy is fucked.
Their purpose for making something like that would be to actually play the games in the first place.
Yeah,
which I can't.
You respect that more.
I respect that much more. Yeah. I respect that more than a bunch of American-based engineers that can definitely afford to buy this shit and play the fucking things,
right,
making it and distributing it, and then charging money for the development of it and access to their shitty little fake online thing that they were developing and all that kind of stuff. It's cool that you can do it, but you need to. That's one of those things you need to be like, this is a hobby. This is a hobbyist thing. Once we start trying to Americanize and be Americans about it and make money from this shit, you're
capitalize in every sense of the word.
You're making money off the back of somebody else. No matter how much you dislike, or respect or disrespect a corporation like Nintendo, you're still doing it off the backs of people.
Yeah,
and those people eventually are going to be like, well, we can afford to stomp you out. Sorry, and that's one of those things where if you're going to do it, you got to shut the fuck up, do your thing.
I mean, again, Ryujinx, probably more likely that you've got a dad who doesn't want to spend the same price as a car to buy Super Mario Odyssey for his 5-year-old kid.
For his kid, yeah.
The kid might play it at half the frame rate on a piece of shit device,
laptop or
on
something,
an iPad.
That's just close enough. Yeah.
But you know what? It's something for them. It's probably better than nothing.
Yeah.
So, and it's a different situation. They're not gonna be like, pay my Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a different mindset with that kind of thing. If the thing is normally available in a standard way, why would you blast your emulator out now? Why not develop Yuzu and develop it internally, underground, whatever, and then release it when the Switch is really at the end of its life? Why not wait until now to release it, then have the thing be around from the beginning and be making money off of it from the beginning? That's you benefit off of the popularity of Switch in the first. Yeah, it's just you're. And then the fucking going back to the fucking getting user data shit. There's a series of fuck ups that brings up one of my typical worries of emulation and emulators in the first place, is that they're made by freaks oftentimes, and those freaks might put some shit in their
that's legitimate concern with piracy, and that goes again to why games are scarier to pirate than other media. Is because it requires an input mechanism.
Yeah.
It exposes more to whatever machine you're touching it with, whereas a movie is just a one-way file that's displaying an image.
Yeah, it might not be the file that you thought you were downloading. You might see some spread butthole or something like that with the thing you downloaded. But regardless, it's probably not going to fuck your shit up.
Yeah, it's not an executable.
Yeah, exactly. But even I was looking up some stuff that happened with Project 64 or whatever. And
the Project 64 vulnerability.
Yeah, so somebody figured out, you can just run whatever fucking code you want through running. It's
just inject whatever.
Exactly, and that shit's nightmarish for me, because I just don't want my fucking shit getting fucked up, my shit getting out.
Nor would you. Nor should you.
Yeah, I just for trying to
lose all of your personal you could lose your identity that way very easily.
And it doesn't even help that shit displays ads and begs you to pay him
malware
for I understand wanting to get paid for what you're working on, but goddamn, begging every time you open the shit, fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off. If you have the ability to make this thing, you have to be smart enough to have another revenue stream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I do know. Maybe I do know.
I feel like there's some games that have been pirated out there that also like will install like crypto mining software and shit.
They probably do. They probably have
spooky stuff out there. Don't hire those fans.
Yeah. Like it's a weird group of people. Like I believe in emulation. I believe in emulators. I believe in all that shit actually. I don't really believe in piracy if you're in a region especially that has an economic situation where you can get games affordably, like $70 games. Fuck you. I want to get Tekken 7, but every time I see that $70, I'm like, fuck that. But even then, it's like emulation is.
You said Tekken 7, I think.
Tekken 8.
Yeah.
Tekken 8. Sorry, Tekken 7 is like $50. Emulation great. I've said it before. Emulation good and emulation great. You need to be less fucking weird about it.
Yeah.
And be honest about it and use it for shit that, use it for yourself, do what you need to do with it. If you have the capability of ripping your own games for the use on there, great. Don't be disingenuous and say, like even Game Boy Advance emulators, those fucking things stutter all the fucking time.
It's
it pisses me the absolute fuck off.
It's so annoying.
It's
Visual
the most
Boy,
annoying shit.
All that shit. It's just like
the stuff is way more junky than than a lot of users tend to be about it because they didn't pay for it. You know what I mean? They're like, this is better than spending $300 on a little machine.
I mean, I will say, I don't want to like necessarily discourage people from working on emulators that are being used for mostly piracy because I think it is a genuinely good learning experience for people. It's like a relatively safe grounds for learning how to code hardware and software that you can take into like a real job, right? You can take that forward to a career that you can monetize using a hobbyist passion project, related to, the toys of your childhood and things that you're used to and things that you care about. Just don't conflate the two. Like use the thing for the passion projects, for the hobbyists, for the learnings. That's fine. That's good. You don't have to spread it. You don't have to make internet social points for it. Yeah,
resist the delusion. You don't need to be grandiose about your shit.
Yeah, just exactly.
Yeah. All right. Ben looks like he's about to shit himself. So
no, I'm just looking at all the little ants around.
Were there ants?
Getting upset about it.
What the fuck?
Really small ones.
Oh yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, there's ants crawling around. So we're gonna deal with this.
Pay for our podcast so we can deal with the ants.
Yeah. Pay for
throw us a donation. Send us to our Patreon so that we can kickstart our Switch emulator.
We actually don't have any of that shit. All right. Rattle off the things. We'll talk about more.
Send us an email at memoryleakpodcast@gmail.com. Shoot us a notification that you've subscribed to our Spotify, our iHeartRadio, our Podbean, our Google Podcasts, our Apple Podcasts, and newly YouTube channel. All right. Well, with that, don't go subscribe to any patrons of emulator developers. Go be smart with your money, be honest with yourself and what you want to pay for or engage with.
Right. Yeah.
And until next time, we'll be back next week.
Next week. All right.
Peace out.
Let's go.